Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Nashville Money Guys YouTube channel. I'm Brandon McDonald, and this is Jason Dodge. We almost have a full team. We almost did. We thought we were going to be able to pull it off.
It's been a little while.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
Like, I think Brandon Rumbley is literally walking with a walker now. It's been that long. So today what we're going to talk about is we've been kind of plugging into like our local real estate investors association network, like the education network a little bit more. We're going to just walk through like basically our experiences of being at some of these meetings, and especially this last one, which was the main speaker was a guy named Bill Cook, who's like a mentor of ours. But I ended up having a different experience than Dodge did because I actually ended up not going into the main meeting because I was sitting outside networking with a guy that builds like 1,000 to 2,000 houses every single year. And I was not willing to give up that conversation to go in to the main event and to see Bill. So like the power of kind of networking. And I think it'll just be interesting our personalities are really different. So to hear, especially like, I'm curious to hear Jason's perspective on what it feels like to walk into a room of people that you don't know and be like, go talk to people. Yeah. So Dodge, let's start with you, and why don't you just take us from the top, and let's kind of go over the rough structure of what the meeting is actually like, because I think this is really intimidating for people. Yeah.
So it's our local real estate REIN meeting, and if you're not in Nashville or you are in Nashville, you should look up in your town that local meeting because they are very helpful and worth every dollar that you spend to go to them. So just a little plug for all the REIN meetings. So ours is set up, usually starts around 5 o'clock. They have a meal for you, usually nachos or tacos or something like that, easy. Then about 30 minutes later, they start some breakout sessions. So the breakout sessions, they currently have two usually. One's an advanced investor and one's a beginning investor. So, and they have different topics within those breakouts as well.
They'll have like different teachers for them, and sometimes they'll have certain specialties. So like I know that they've had general contractors go and speak. They've had people who are doing development deals, like
storage stuff.
Yeah. So they'll have like kind of smaller, and typically those are shorter. Like those are 30 minutes, 45 minutes?
30, 45 minutes. Lots of questions are asked. Like it's a mini session with lots of questions asked.
Yeah.
Then they have in between the end of that and the main meeting is the new investor where you raise your hand. Is this your first time? They take all you guys into another room and kind of pitch the REN group and what it is, how to join, all those things. And it's a little salesy, but it's overall, you need to know the information. So,
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where like, if you're going to do real estate and you're going to do real estate investing, you should just join this group and you should start showing up.
Right.
Because even though it seems like maybe sometimes you'll go and you're not going to get a lot out of it, like we literally have formed businesses with people that we met in the REIA group that provided hundreds of thousands of dollars over time.
Yeah.
And it was just because you're just showing up and being with a group of people that do what you do.
Right.
And to some version of the other.
So, and after that, you have the main meeting. Usually that's an hour and a half or so of the speaker. Again, all different topics coming in. This one, again, was Bill Cook, who his seminar, and we'll talk a little bit about that, just what box seminar. Great seminar, learning about alternative financing, creative deal structure, all those things. And then after that, a lot of meetings have an after party where a group of people go out to a certain restaurant or a bar and hang out and grab a drink and something, just hang out.
Yeah, and that's for sure, like, probably coming up in it, like for over the last 10 years, that's how we made some really deep connections with other people, because you just start going into the after party, which means that you got to I have to tell Jocelyn, like, hey, it's going to be really late. And I know if you text me, it's going to sound like I'm having a lot of fun, but I'm not, I promise.
It's work, I promise.
I'm at work. I'm doing education stuff. Yeah. Trust me, I'm trying to network. I'm trying to make money.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me how it feels for you to walk into a room of 200 to 300 people.
It's my worst nightmare. So even more, I think, than public speaking.
Really?
Yeah, because public speaking, you generally have an idea what you're going to say. I would say you've practiced it. You know what you're going to get up there and talk about, and you're just speaking. Everyone's watching you, but you're just speaking. This mingling to me is like my worst nightmare. Like if I don't know a ton of people there, it's always been hard for me.
Is it because you don't have like a line right off the bat that you can deliver that you feel like an icebreaker line?
No, I just think it's, I don't know. I've always been that way. I'm a guy that needs or loves a good wingman.
Okay.
You know, like going to a party, like,
Yeah.
I don't like breaking the ice.
Okay.
And like starting cold conversations.
So how do you do it? Like, do you remember any of the conversations that you had?
Yeah.
I mean, because basically the scenario he's talking about, you walk through like a vendor area where there's a lot of vendors who have paid to have booths. And then at our Rio, he was talking about like the dinner. There's a bunch of tables that people are sitting at. And at our Rio, they have labels on each of the tables, like new investor or lenders or construction, rehabbers, whatever. And then you'll just have random people kind of sitting wherever. Yeah. But you literally have to just kind of walk up to a table and go, is anyone sitting here? And then...
Yeah. Then start talking. So for me, it takes a minute. Like I have to kind of mindset myself. Like even walking in, I'm like, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable, but you're going to do it.
Keep this tight to your mouth.
This is going to be uncomfortable and you're going to do it. So I get in, I walk in, check in. Usually I'll walk through, just kind of scan the room, see what's going on, go to the food. Don't eat anything because I'm going to the after party usually. And then I'll go to the restroom, come out, and then just find a seat and sit in it. And it's so hard for me to do.
The parallel, the funny thing is though, I do the same thing where I walk all the way through to just kind of see and smile and wave, and then I go pee, and then I come back through because I've had a reason to go to another spot, and then you don't feel like the weird kid at the at like the cafeteria where you're just holding your tray, looking around, hoping that you see your friends sitting there. But that's the point: is you don't want to go sit with your friends,
right?
Okay, so tell me how you actually...
And that's hard. That's hard for me too, because usually if I see, several people that we know, you guys, Aubrey, someone there that I know, I'm like,
that's a safe place. I'm going to go sit there.
It's easy to go there.
Yeah.
So I have to force myself to just be like, nope, and go sit down and say, hey, can I sit here? And everyone says, yeah.
When you sit, right? Nobody's ever like slapped you in your face.
No, feels like they want to, but yeah.
But that's the funny thing is like, you're an introvert.
Yeah.
And so that's very nerve-wracking for you. And I don't know what the fear is founded in.
Yeah.
But literally everyone is just nice.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone relates and is like, yeah, absolutely, come sit here. Or like, hey, you know what, my wife's actually there, but this one's open over here.
Right.
All right. So how do you start out a conversation at a table full of people that you don't know? Or are you just like giving feedback as other people are talking?
So it depends.
Okay.
If there's an established conversation going on, I'll just kind of weasel my way into that a little bit, like, oh, that's cool, and then just maybe a little feedback. If the tables are kind of big, so sometimes it's hard to hear what's going on over there. Like everyone's like, what? So I'll usually ask, so what are you doing? Like what kind of deals are you into? Or and then just start the conversation.
But that's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Is, hey, what are you interested in doing in real estate, or what are you doing in real estate? Because like we're in a room full of people that's the goal.
This last week was a younger girl that is just getting started being interested, and we talked a lot because obviously we've done a lot of stuff, and she just had a lot of questions. And I was giving her feedback and helping her, pursue what she thought was the right way. So,
how long did it take you, like after you sat down and just kind of started listening with that girl in particular? Were you just sitting there for like 5 minutes listening, or did you pretty well instantly kind of strike up a, hey, what are you doing?
That one was pretty instant.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because it was the guys that were talking were like deep into conversation, like one-on-one.
Yep.
So I wasn't going to try and bust into that.
Yeah.
It wasn't more like a table topic. So I was like, hey, what are you up to?
Yeah.
So she was brand new. She was looking into being a realtor and just kind of exploring all options at this point.
Did you slap her in her face when she asked a question that was wrong or anything like that?
Just once.
Okay, just once. All right.
Once.
So you did not instigate violence against this person. No. You just sat there and had a good conversation with her. So there's no reason for people to be afraid in this environment that something horrible is going to happen.
No, and even feeling dumb, which to me, like we've done a lot of stuff. So obviously I'm not dumb, but like I always feel like I'm not going to give the right answer, or just like somebody's asking me, like, yeah, but like you never feel that way when you get there.
That's so weird to me that that's even a thing that you think about in that context.
I know.
Because the reality is you have done more than every other person in that room except for maybe 5.
Yeah.
Like, so the fact that you are still worried about potentially giving like a piece of information that's incorrect, I think that's humility.
Yeah.
And it's like a lack of hubris that you have, which is really good. But it is interesting that like that fear still exists in you in that context.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll tell you my approach to when I go in, unless you've got something else that you want to tag on here.
No.
Okay. So I'm an extrovert. So
if you couldn't tell.
Right. So I feed off of people. I feed off the energy of people, but I still have a little bit of that shyness right up front as well, which is why I said I also like going to the bathroom, checking out the room.
You're just not walking in like popping your collar and like, what's up?
I should do that. I'll wear my leather jacket and snap. But sometimes I do ride the motorcycle and I will have my leather jacket with me.
Like a movie entrance.
Exactly. Yeah, I want walk-in music actually. Maybe I'll work on that. No, I don't. That's the thing is I still like, I'm conscious that, and this is what happens, and I'm conscious that this happens and I feel bad that this happens. Okay. So I sit down at a table, and because I speak loudly, I sit down and there's a pause because there's a new person who's just sitting down at the table, and I immediately gravitate to whoever is making eye contact, and I say, hey, I'm Brandon with Nashville Money Guys. We like do hard money lending stuff. What are you into for real estate? Okay. And I literally completely take control of the table. And I don't do it on purpose, but that's what happens. And I only a couple of times that I can remember, I literally destroy all the other conversations that are going on at the table. Interesting. Don't know why.
Yeah.
It's happened a couple of times where I've sat down and other people have been talking, and I've had a one-on-one with somebody where I sit down and we just have the conversation like you and the girl do.
Right.
But I would literally say 90% of the time. But I think it's just because of how loud I am that people all of a sudden go, oh, I can hear the entire conversation. Right. And I'll reiterate things. If they're telling me, I'm just learning, I'm interested in rentals. Oh, that's cool. You're interested in rentals. Where are you interested in rentals? Right. Like what type of area are you looking in? So I feel like for the good or the bad, I tend to take over a conversation. But I also think if that's a thing that I decide I don't like about myself, or I start getting a lot of negative feedback, I feel like I can tweak that and I can channel a little more Jason Dodge where I may slide in a little bit and just be like, I'm just going to listen for a few minutes. I don't want to take over.
Yeah. No, that's good. And I will say on my part too, like I've been around long enough that I can, probably not to the extreme that you do it, but if I need to, I can also turn that on. Like I don't like to, just because it's not my personality and it wears me out. But like I can go in and be like, hey, what are we doing? You know, like, so.
Yeah. Do you think that it would be more from a business getting standpoint, like from making more contacts? Do you think that it would be better for Nashville Money Guys if you were a little bit more?
Oh, sure.
Oh, well, get your shit together. Get out there. No, I'm just
I need to do a little bit more. Yeah.
Nah, I'm just messing with you. I don't know that that's actually the case, because I think that people also appreciate especially once they figure out what our roles are within the organization. Right. I think they probably appreciate a personality that shows a little more conservative, whereas I'm more the sales guy, marketing stuff. Right. That is designed to kind of be pushed a little bit more forward. Right. And so I guess that probably
and
makes
everybody
sense.
Gravitates to a different personality.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true too.
There's multiple personalities, and everyone tends to gravitate to somebody.
Yeah,
and we have 3 different personalities on our team, so it works pretty well.
Yeah,
so.
I will say that 2 meetings ago, I sat down at a table, and everybody was kind of explaining what they do, and this pair that was next to me, they were like, "Oh, we've got some rentals." And, we've got a couple of Airbnbs. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. How many rentals do you have? And then I was like, that's a rude question. Like, I probably shouldn't ask that. And I literally said out loud, I'm sorry.
I think
that's a rude question. I shouldn't have asked you that. I apologize. Yeah. And so I realized that every once in a while I'll get over my skis. Yeah. But then I'm willing to pull myself back. And like, I'm willing to like admit that I might have looked like a little bit of an idiot in front of somebody. Sure. So like, I'm never, I have a little bit of humility when it comes to that. Like I will admit when I've made a mistake very publicly. That doesn't bother me. Okay. So let's move to the next part of the meeting where, and specifically with Bill and this last meeting, you went into the main group and I was still sitting on the outside.
Yep.
What did you learn? Or, I mean, you talk about what your experience it was in the main event and what you were learning.
Yeah. So like you said, Bill Cook has just been a good friend and mentor of ours for, 10 years now, maybe.
Yeah.
And love the guy. And he just always brings a good energy, and it was about creative deal structure. Essentially, his pitch is not outside the box thinking. There is no box, so don't limit yourself by having to be outside the box. So there's multiple ways to structure deals. This particular evening, I think he went through 3 or 4 deal structures that he had done. Didn't go super into depth because of time, but just kind of the overall structure, using options, using foreclosures as a tool, which was interesting, and how to gain financing from friends, family, acquaintances, stuff like that.
The goal of the main event is kind of to wet your whistle, so that you'll give a little bit more money to go to like a Saturday class that's longer.
And on this one, it's his particular class coming up, the What Box.
Oh, okay. It's his actual What Box event.
His actual What Box, and I think they were giving like $100 discount for that weekend.
Okay.
And like a free door knocking, which is one of his big pushes, is door knocking. So he was giving a free course, essentially, door knocking.
Yeah, and that sounds wild. Like, you're like, door knocking? I don't understand. But Bill started off as an Electrolux vacuum cleaner salesman, door to door. And there are legitimate like sales techniques that they had studied and learned to basically gain access to the people that were inside the home, and to basically work with these people in a way that you can start making offers on their houses. And it's like scientifically proven, studied ways to basically make these people comfortable to get to the kitchen table. Is mind-blowing.
So much so that he was teaching the door knocking, and he would go out with groups of 30 to 60 people, and all of them would get in the house at the kitchen table.
So bonkers.
Like,
yeah,
so bizarre.
Yeah, no, it's so bizarre. It sounds so weird. But like, as a buying technique, Brandon and I went and did his class. Like, we paid money to go on his, I think it was a half day. Yeah. And it's literally one of the more impactful things that I've done in real estate. From I'm very uncomfortable, and then we did the thing, and then now I'm more comfortable with this, and I have a deeper understanding of why this could be such an important tool for people. Yeah. Okay, all right. So we're kind of hyping up Bill right now, but basically the goal is for them to kind of wet your whistle with that one night event. You're going to learn some stuff, but you're not going to go super in depth. Typically, they'll have a Saturday class that you're going to go to, or like Bill, where he's got a structured class that's in a different. Are these he doing Atlanta or Tampa with this?
I'm not. I can't remember. Where
it doesn't matter. It's not. I don't think it's in Nashville.
No.
But you're going to pay like $100 or $200 more typically to go to the Saturday class. Right. But that's a pretty low investment considering.
This is an all-day class.
Yeah. This isn't the type of thing where you're showing up and they're like, hey, we're going to liquidate your 401k and then we're going to roll it over and you're going to write us a $25,000
Been to those
check.
Classes.
Yeah. Those classes.
Yeah.
You don't need those classes. We won't talk crap about those classes, but you don't need those classes to get to where you want to go.
Or the big upsells. You don't need the spend $30,000 to get to the next tier of you don't need that.
No way. No way. Like, I mean, we've never probably paid more than $1,500 to go to an event each, ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, you think about if you're going to go spend $25,000, you think about how many different classes you can pay $1,500 to go to versus that $2,500 or the $25,000. It's you don't need to. You don't need to. Okay, so after the main event, we went out with Bill, and we went out with probably 20 other people.
Yep.
To go to a restaurant, and you got to sit down and you got to hang out and meet more new people.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So more of the networking stuff, but now you probably have some more things that you can talk about because you guys both just sat through the main meeting, and like you can literally be like, "Hey, did you learn anything? Did you pick anything up?" Like, yeah. Kind of gives you that. It's kind of a built-in icebreaker now that you've.
Yeah, and I want to hear what you did with the builder guy.
Yeah. So. I didn't end up going into the main meeting because there's a guy who builds a lot of houses in the southern part of Nashville, Spring Hill and I guess it's not Nashville. It's south of Franklin. So he's built a crap ton of houses. Yeah. And he builds
for
literally
a long time.
Thousands and thousands of houses every year.
Yeah.
So I don't know why this dude comes to RIN, because it's small ball. The people in RIN that are doing a lot of deals are doing tens of deals, and this dude is doing thousands.
Right.
So, but I asked him why.
Okay.
And so I ended up basically sitting down, and that's also part of my personality, is being willing to kind of push a little bit harder than probably most people would, just out of curiosity. I'm willing to ask more challenging questions. And I think the main reason is because I can't ever remember a time where somebody said, that's really personal. I'd rather not answer that. So I feel like I tend to ask those questions where I push in a little bit more. So this guy, we'll call him Jay, was sitting down with one other guy, and they were just sitting over kind of by themselves. Now, I didn't want to be the bull with that conversation. So I sat down and I said, you don't mind if I come sit down and listen? Yeah. And then silence for 10 seconds. So just my presence coming into the conversation had kind of crushed what they were talking about. And I said, did I interrupt something? I definitely don't want to, if you guys were going someplace, I don't want to interrupt. And they said, no, we're good. We were just kind of finishing what we were just talking about. And then I said, oh, that's amazing. And I bypassed the guy who builds the thousands of houses. And I asked the other guy what he was up to and what he was learning from this guy, so that we could still kind of all three loop into the conversation. Because I also wanted Mr. J to hear when he's talking, what are people taking away from it? Yeah. So I literally ended up sitting there for 2 hours with the guy and talking about all sorts of stuff. We ran the gamut. We talked about his college football days. We talked about all sorts of stuff and just let the conversation kind of flow where we wanted to. And then when I had a specific question that I felt like would be kind of interesting for him to talk about, at one point, I asked him about his organization chart. Can you tell me about your org chart and how you guys are running your team? And then he does EOS. And he was like, my son, when he came in to the business, he said, hey, I've been working with a coach, and here's what I think we should do. And the crazy thing was, Mr. J wasn't doing those types of meetings before 6 years ago. And he was still building thousands of houses beforehand, but he says it's made a huge difference in the efficiency of their business. Wow. So that was really fascinating to me. So if there's a book called Traction, and they basically have created a meeting structure within that's very regimented. And it's got different categories that you essentially, you pull up this dashboard in your meeting, and then you go through this thing, and you don't get out of line. There's different amounts of time that you're supposed to spend doing everything.
No rabbit trails. No,
you're not supposed to rabbit trail.
No squirrels.
No squirrels. And I feel like if you have a really professional team, it's a really, really good structure. The danger, for our team, because I had never felt like we were that great about following it, is we were always yeah, it's okay if we don't follow it. We're just casual. Yeah. But I think we
short-sighted a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. Because we could have been casual in other times. We could have just focused on EOS and actually done the rocks. So that's one of the parts of the meeting that's really important, because I asked him about that too. Is you basically create personal goals within the system that you put in, and they're supposed to be accomplished in a certain amount of time. And it's not a ton of personal goals.
And they're called rocks. I'm sure most of you have probably seen that display, or the example of where you fill a jar with sand. They try to put the rocks in, they won't fit. You put the big stuff in first, and then you can fill it with the small stuff later.
So the point is, you have to pick the big things, what you actually really need to spend your time focusing on, so that you don't just actually fill the jar with sand. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
I didn't remember that was the reason they called them rocks. That makes total sense to me. So Mr. J, they ran EOS, and he said there's 5 people that are in their EOS meeting. And I was like, just 5?
5, geez.
How the heck is that possible? And he said, then we have 40 employees underneath.
Okay.
But I asked him what their 40 employees were, and they're all tradesmen. Okay. He's got some guys that are driving heavy machinery, but the majority of them were punch guys.
Interesting. So the 5 are the true running the business, making sure stuff's getting done.
They're the people who
the scheduling
are running departments.
Yeah.
but then those they're the ones that are communicating to non-employees.
Yeah.
But like, so our
And then
the
back up to
accounting
Jay.
firm that we use,
Right.
they're not an employee of ours, but like we're so heavily invested with them.
Right.
We kind of have an employer-employee relationship with them.
Right.
So I think it's kind of like that.
Yeah, okay.
Like we're
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like for thousands of houses.
Yeah.
So that kind of blew my mind that he was actually able to run an organization that was that small.
Yeah.
And that tight and still that efficient. I mean, he's showing us projects. Like there was a couple other people that would kind of join at various times, and he's on his phone scrolling through like the neighborhood that I live in and around areas, and he's showing me dirt that he's bought over the last 55 years since he's been doing this, and he's telling me how many acres it was and what price per acre he paid and when.
Jeez.
I'm talking like
just steel trap.
1982, there was 52 acres right here at this address, and I remember we paid $1,800 an acre for it. Ooh. And he was like, "That it's crazy because now I'd sell it for $180,000 an acre."
Yeah.
So it was that kind of stuff. Like the dude is sharp as a tack.
Wow.
Like super good memory, and you can tell that he's still really, really interested in the business. That's why I didn't go into the main meeting.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to sit down and I wanted to just absorb from this guy. And so now what I'm trying to figure out, because he could be very helpful for us with the build that we're getting ready to start doing, which is in his scale, it's tiny. Like it's just a normal thing.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to figure out is how do I create value for him? Like what's the way that I can create some value for him so that I feel like I can justify talking to him about this?
Yeah.
And so if you have any recommendations on how we could create value for a person like that, I don't think it's something business related.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it's like, I'm not going to go like buy him a Porsche, you know, like, so I don't, that's the interesting thing is I'm trying to figure out how to create value for him. And I did ask him at some point, is there a way for a guy like me to create value for a guy like you? And he said he'd have to think about it. But like if there wasn't,
I think also, like, when you get to a certain point, like, it's not always about getting something. Like, you feel like you should be giving back. And I think he has a little bit of that too. So I think he comes to Ren to hang out, you know, be amongst people that are learning and give back some stuff. And also, like, I mean, if anybody walks up to us and asks us questions, we're going to answer them. You know, like we're not going to turn away. Now, how much time would we spend going over specific ideas and deals and like going to site visits and stuff like that? That's TBD. Right. But, you know,
well, I mean, it's not really TBD. The honest answer is we're probably not going to be willing to put that much time in unless we see some sort of potential on our end to be able to get some sort of return on going to that extent. Now, we would definitely talk to somebody for 30 minutes at Ren and have a really nice, long, uninterrupted conversation about what they're doing.
Well, even just, I mean, you all don't see it as much, but like just the calls into the office on a daily basis, you know, talking to people about specific deals and all that and helping them walk through. And we may not be your best option. So here's where you should go. You know, did that yesterday for someone with a new construction house.
Got it.
So it's like,
got it.
But
you might be right that the value that we create for him is actually the reward of seeing kind of the next generation getting to change their family tree.
At least a piece of it, I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
It would be nice to have him come do a little site visit.
It would be amazing. I mean, or at least for us to just like be able to bring some stuff in and go, if this was your project, what would you do?
Yeah.
And see if he had some recommendations.
Yeah.
We might have to reach out to him. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah.
It was so understated. Like you just would never think.
I talked to him the month before at the other meeting, and it was just same thing. Blew my mind. Like stuff that I had not even thought about before. And I was like, I've been doing this too long to not have heard this stuff.
It's because, so that's another thing that was really interesting is the shifting gears that we have done going from one house at a time to 2 to 4 to 8 to however many flips at a time, and then transitioning into new construction. And then like he just kept shifting gears. He just shifted gears into the stratosphere. Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, were you ever like, did this ever scare you? This many zeros? And he said, I'm sure it did at one point, but I don't remember that time.
Wow.
And you could tell even when he was just ripping numbers that it was literally the zeros were almost irrelevant. It was just how much per unit does this cost? How much is the land, how much is the land development going to cost? But now he really did care about the product that they made. He was really proud of showing me like pictures of what they were coming up with. And he's got I can't remember how many units that they kept, 100 or 200. And he was like, we rent them for $1,900 a month, and they're 2 bedrooms, but they were like fireplaces, wainscoting everywhere, 12-foot ceilings, crown molding, brick, like gorgeous, really nice houses.
Yeah.
A lot of value for that amount of money.
He said, last meeting, I remember him talking about it and saying, yeah, we finished these houses and we had sold half of them. The interest rates went way up. So he's like, we had to keep some of those because they wouldn't sell for the price that I wanted. And it wasn't necessarily that I didn't feel like I could have sold them and been fine, but I didn't want to sell them for less than the other people had bought them for in the neighborhood.
Yep.
Because I didn't want to hurt their comps for the future.
Wow.
So he's like, so instead of doing that and just taking a price cut and, still making money getting out of the deal, like I just kept them and we'll sell them at a future date.
Man.
I was like, and it was a lot of houses.
The type of money that it takes, or the type of like just financial IQ that it takes for you to just know that you can go re-secure those. Because most of the time you're in some sort of construction type scenario where the plan is develop, get them built, get them sold.
Pay off the loans.
Pay off the loans. It's a different type of structure for the financing that, obviously than it is for a buy and hold. And for him to like, just be like, oh, we just kept 40 of them.
Yeah. I was like, whoa.
I don't know how many it was, but
it was a lot.
Something like that. Yikes. So I think that overall, like, I think what the takeaways are from this is there is value in the main meeting. There's value in the networking. There's value in the subgroups. You just have to keep showing up, and you have to be willing, no matter what, you just have to be willing to sit down with people that you don't know and start conversations.
And the question that most of them will ask is the same that we ask. It's like, what are you doing? And even if that answer is, I'm just getting started looking.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, I'm just looking into it.
No one's going to slap you in the face when you say that. Now, I will say, if you act like you know what you're doing, and they start sniffing around and realize that you don't know what you're actually talking about, that's where people will have a problem with you. So just act like you are where you are.
Yeah. Like act like really smart, and then how many deals have you done? Oh, nothing yet.
Right.
You're like,
but I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. Yeah. I mean, it's just,
you got to break out.
Yeah,
you got to break out and actually do something.
That's an attitude that nobody wants.
Yeah.
And it doesn't benefit you at all. Like literally nobody gives a crap what car you drive. Nobody gives a crap how many deals you've done. They just want to know like who you are and what you've been up to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
All right. You got anything else that you want to talk about that?
No, I think just go to your RAN groups and get involved.
Yeah, and if you don't have a RIN group, there's got to be, more than likely, there's some sort of small real estate investing group that's around you that you can find. And even if it's small, 4 or 5 guys that like go meet at a McDonald's, plug in and go do it and learn. And there will be value in there for sure.
Yeah.
If you need hard money loans and you're in the southeastern part of the United States, basically like fix and flip loans, we are a asset-based hard money lender out of Nashville, Tennessee. Look us up, NashvilleMoneyGuys.com. I'm Brandon McDonald.
Jason Dodge.
Thanks for watching.